After a stronger than expected start in the month of January, we've seen activity moderate as the number of sales has increased slightly while the number of new listings has decreased slightly relative to January. This has kept us in balanced market territory. With the recent political moves we've seen between Canada and the US, and also the expectations around where rates might go, there's a lot happening right now that buyers and sellers are considering when making their moves. So how is this impacting prices and what are we seeing on the ground right now? I'm Adina with Adina YVR Vancouver Real Estate Group, here with your March 2025 market update. Let's jump right into the numbers and take a look at what's going on. Let's start off looking at sales. In the month of February, we had just over 1,800 sales reported on the MLS. This is an increase of 18% relative to January, yet it's a decline of 12% relative to this time last year. And relative to the 10-year sales average for the month of February, we're down 29%. Looking at this by property type, we see that for detached homes, we had 477 sales in the month of February. This is a decrease of 15% relative to this time last year. For attached townhomes and duplexes, we had 359 sales, and this is a decline of 11% relative to this time last year. And for apartment condos, we had 976 sales reported, and this is a decline of 11% relative to this time last year as well. What's unusual for this time of year is that we saw the pace of new listings coming onto the market decline in February relative to January. Typically, we see the opposite. We see that as we come into January, we have a slow start with the pace of inventory coming onto the market, and as we pick up into February, March, that's when new listings increase. In the month of February, we had just over 5,050 homes newly listed for sale on the MLS. This is a decline of 9% relative to the number we saw in January, yet it is still up 11% relative to this time last year, and it's up about 12% relative to the 10-year sales average for the month of February. So we're still in healthy territory. So while we saw sellers becoming less active in listing their homes for sale on the market, we did see total inventory continue to accumulate. In the month of February, we saw just over 12,700 homes available for sale on the MLS. This is an increase of 11% relative to January, and it's up 32% relative to this time last year. Relative to the 10-year sales average for the month of February, we're up about 36%. So buyers have a lot more selection to choose from in this market. So how is this impacting prices, and is it buyers or sellers who have the leverage right now? Well, to understand what's going on, we want to look at the sales to active listings ratio. As you recall, this ratio looks at the balance between supply and demand, and we're essentially looking at the number of sales in a given month divided by the active listings left over at the end of that month. Looking at this ratio tells us if we're in seller's market territory, which would be a ratio of 21% or more, or buyer's market territory if we're in a ratio of 12% or less, or if we're in balanced market conditions in the middle. In the month of February, we were at 14.8%, which is up just slightly from January when we were at 14.1%. So we've remained in balanced market territory. And traditionally what happens in balanced market territory is that prices stabilize. Looking at this by property type, we see that the ratio has remained flat or increased slightly amongst all segments. For detached homes, the ratio is currently 10.7%, which is up slightly from January at 9.2%, yet it's still in buyer's market territory. For attached townhomes and duplexes, we're at 18.5%, which is unchanged relative to January, and this again is in balanced market territory. And for condo apartments, we're at 16.8%, which is up slightly from 16.5% in January, and again in balanced market territory. So let's take a look at prices. The HPI composite benchmark price for all property types in the month of February was $1,169,100. And this is down 0.3% relative to January, and it's down 1.1% relative to February last year. For detached homes, the HPI benchmark price is currently $2,006,100. This is virtually unchanged relative to January, and it's increased 1.8% relative to February last year. For attached townhomes and duplexes, the HPI benchmark price is currently $1,087,100. This is a decline of 1.7% relative to January, and it's down 1.2% relative to February last year. For condo apartments, the HPI benchmark price is currently $747,500. This is down 0.1% relative to January, and it's a decline of 2.8% relative to February last year. So what are the key takeaways, and what do you need to know if you're looking to make a move this spring? Number one is that sales are down, but the market is holding steady. And what we're seeing, especially here in the city of Vancouver, is that when new listings come on, they're either selling right away, and in some cases, they're still going in multiple offers, or they're not getting that action and they're sitting on the market longer. And what we're seeing is that, buyers' expectations are that they could get a discount, sellers' expectations are still that they could get a high price, and they're just not meeting in the middle. This is very common when the market is transitioning. Number two is that as a buyer, you have way more selection than you've had in years. This is actually the best buying conditions that we've seen for buyers since pre-COVID. There's more selection on the market, you're able to negotiate, you're able to take your time and look at options and really find the right place for you. So if you're a buyer, this is the time to start looking for deals. Number 3 is that we're currently in balanced market territory, which means that prices are expected to stabilize. And that's what we're seeing right now. This is a great market for negotiating. It's a great market for buyers getting into the market and also for home sellers who are looking to work their way up the market. And what's really important right now is that you're strategic and you're aware of what's happening in your specific submarket. Although the overall market is in balanced market conditions, we're seeing certain segments of the market still in seller's market territory and other segments in buyer's market territory. So you really need to do your homework and you need to understand what market you are looking to make a deal in. So if you're a buyer, this is great news. You have more selection to choose from, more ability to negotiate, and you're possibly looking at even lower rates in the coming weeks and months. As a seller, you really need to be strategic about how you can stand out and capture buyers' attention. This is not a market to test the market in and overprice your listing or not put the effort into getting it ready. You really need to be strategic about how you can stand out and attract the right buyer. If you're thinking of making a move and would like to schedule a consultation to discuss your options, you could do so by clicking the link here below in the description on YouTube, or if you're watching this on Instagram, you could click the link in my bio. In the meantime, to stay up to date with what's happening in the market, be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and follow me on Instagram at adina.yvr. Have a great rest of the month and looking forward to seeing you in April.